Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. You guys, I got a question for you this morning. My question is, what story are you still carrying? We're starting off this month, and we're talking about unlocking your potential, you guys. That is a series for June. How to unlock your potential. Listen, what stories are you still carrying? What I want you to know is that many of us were handed stories that we never chose. All right. Stories like, again, I have to earn love. I'm too emotional. I don't belong. I have to prove my worth. Listen, these are all beliefs. These beliefs don't live in your head alone, you guys. They live in your habits. They live in your relationships. They live in your silence and they live in your hesitation, right? The hesitation that you have to fully show up. So let's get real. What's one belief or story you know you've outgrown, but yet you let it go? All right. You're still living in it. All right. And what's new? What's one new truth that you're ready to reclaim? Listen, it is Mindset Reset Monday. And not only is it Mindset Reset Monday, we are here for a new series. Again, this series is how to unlock your potential. And unlock, I always got an old acronym, right? We have a 5-week series. So this week, we're talking about uncovering what's really holding you back, uncovering what's holding you back. Now, I do have a different layout. We're going into the summer months, and I definitely want to make sure that I'm being respectful of your time and things like that. So, what we're going to do is on Mindset Reset Mondays, we're going to talk about stories and triggers. On Tuesday, Transformational Tuesday, we're talking about obstacles. The Gratitude Shift Wednesdays, we're talking about paradigms and patterns. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about that inner critic, which is that identity and self talk. And then we're going to have our self validation Friday, but that's going to be for you, you guys. Still going to be some engagement that you can do, but I'm not going to come on live. So it's 4 days on, 3 days off. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me give my disclaimer for this morning. All right, listen, this session is not about quick fixing. It's about honest reflection and courage, right? And the courage of truth telling. You're not broken. I'm going to remind you of that as much as I can. You just may be carrying beliefs that were never meant for you. Okay, so today is about bringing those stories into light, into healing. And what is my why? Because I see so many people carry silent shame from these inherited beliefs and unspoken rules that were never theirs to begin with. Okay. We can't transform what we won't confront. And this session is an invitation so you can start telling the truth. So we can start telling the truth to ourselves, not because we are broken, but because we're ready to become whole. Okay. Not because we're broken, because we're ready to come whole. Remember, where your attention goes, your energy flows. All right. So when you're saying, I'm trying to fix me, then you're repeating the cycle of brokenness or this idea that you're broke. But when you focus on your becoming, right, and just being whole, like, hey, I'm reading this book because I am becoming, I am doing this work because I am developing, right? You're shifting the energy and how it's developing. You're shifting the attention. You're even shifting the atmosphere in which you're drawing your energy or you're drawing your support from. So, again, we're not about fixing in this season. We're about becoming whole and just, growing and evolving and just, starting to claim, right, our life. All right. So, good morning. Good morning. It is Monday. It is Monday. Listen, I have a guest this morning, right? So if y'all hear somebody in the background, just know that I got a guest, and I'm probably gonna open up a studio where I can have guests and they can chime in. But I have a guest this morning. So you want to say good morning? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I have a guest this morning, you guys. So good morning. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're doing on this Mindset Reset Monday. And before we start, let's get present in our bodies. All right. So let's take our deep breath. Again, this is your time, no pressure, just your presence, okay? All right, I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. I'm the licensed clinical social worker, PhD, and the developer of the Stop It Now method. All right, I want to welcome you to Project Life. Life Lessons, which is a part of Project Life. And Project Life is truly where we turn theory into practice. So I want you to drop one word in the chat. Tell me how you're feeling this morning as we go to ground ourselves. All right. Feeling our feet on the floor. Just giving some love to our bodies. Again, this whole year, we're going to focus on getting present in the body because we need the body to know that, listen, it's safe, right? We are safe. Our bodies are safe. And just to recognize these 750 trillion cells that is working on our behalf without us even asking, right? Right. Your heart is beating, your lungs is going, your nervous system is going, right? Like your body, this phenomenal vessel is just working on your behalf as we speak, right? Without you knowing. So let's bring some attention to it. Feeling our butts on the seat. If you're laying down, let's feel ourselves in the beds. Wiggle your toes, okay, up your spine where all your nerves are, right? Just feeling your spine around your rib cage, right? Just thanking your bones, right, for your ribs for supporting every organ, right? Your intestines, your lungs, your heart, right? Just kind of bringing some attention to your core, all right? Your heart space, just feeling love, right? Just burst out your heart. Love is something that you give. I know a lot of us talk about emotions and things like that, and we're sitting back waiting to be loved. But I just want you to know that love is an expansive energy, right? It's an expansive emotion. So it's something that we give. So let's feel our bodies give our self-love, right? And pour from our hearts up our necks, right? Through our throat, right? Throat chakra, just opening our throats, up our jaw, feeling our jaw relax, right? On this morning, our nose, feeling the air go in and out of our nose, just getting present enough to feel that. All right. Our eyes, right? Softening our ears and how we hear today. All right. And then the top of our head, and then just bringing some awareness to the biggest organ of our body, our skin, and just thanking it for holding us together. And again, if we're feeling a little tight this morning, just pushing our energy out, right? And then if we feel like we're taking on too much, right, just too big, and we're feeling a lot of space, just kind of bringing that in, right? Bringing it back to a safe space for us. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How am I feeling this morning? I'm feeling grateful on this Monday morning as we start to talk about how to unlock, or really today, uncover, right? Uncover, see what the title is. Listen, you can't heal what you hide. So really trying to uncover what's really holding you back. All right. And that's our theme for this whole week. All right. Who is this session for? So this session is for you if you say I'm fine when you're really not. All right. When you hide behind performance or productivity. All right. If you're carrying shame and guilt that was never yours to begin with. All right, was never yours to begin with, and you feel unseen, but you're too afraid to be fully known. All right, you feel unseen, but you're still kind of scared to be fully known. All right, listen, this shame that you carry and this guilt that was never yours to begin with. If you heard me start this conversation last week about people will make you feel like you're wrong when they are uncomfortable, right? And so we've experienced this as you do something, right, and then it made the adult in some way emotional, right? And then they made you feel like that you did something wrong or that you were in error, right? Which left you feeling like you were not enough or like you should have known better or something. But I always say, well, who taught you that, right? Life is a learning curve, right? It's a school where we learn, and sometimes it take us going through situations 5, 6, 7, 8 times before our brain actually feels like it's safe to retain and store that. Okay, we got to feed ourselves the same information 5, 6, 7 times, right, before the brain is like, okay, I can store that. Good morning, big brother, big little brother, bro. I love you. I love you. All right, so here's our powerful quote for this morning. Listen, you can't heal what you hide. That's our powerful quote. You can't heal what you hide. I think Jay-Z said it. You can't heal what you won't reveal. And so hopefully this week, right, that you will allow some space for you to reveal it to yourself, right? And then once you get the insight, right, from these lessons, you'll either reach out to get a therapist, right? Start to journal a little bit, maybe go online get you a journal or something like that, right? And really just start to seek out the additional help and support that you may need, what, to grow. I just told my guest this morning, that life, meets you at its measure, right? So if you got 100-pound life, in some way you got to figure out how to lift that. Okay. How you got to lift this 100-pound life. And then I said, and if you have 1,000-pound life, you got to figure out how to lift that. And here's the thing, you can't lift 1,000-pound life by yourself, right? Because you can't lift it by yourself, that means that you have to learn how to be resourceful. All right. So at some point in life, you have to realize that if the life I desire is 1,000-pound life or 250-pound life, and again, I'm giving a metaphor, right? A 2,500-pound life, right? Or 1,000-pound life, but that's the life I desire. I know that I'm gonna need help with lifting that. So I know I'm gonna have to become creative and become resourceful and become kind and become forgiving, right? Because I need a community of people around me that's going to help me lift this life. And not only me, but that what we're lifting, they see a part in that lifting too, right? It's kind of like that analogy that the janitor sees this line of sight for the students, right? He knows his line of sight as the janitor, even though he's not teaching the students in the school, right? But he has a mission or alignment with that student. Okay. So a lot of us have 1,000-pound lives that we desire, right? And we know it's a lot, but we're not willing to, and we have to get willing to heal so we can start trusting, coming into community so we can lift that life together. Okay. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. All right. Yeah, why does this matter? Well, most people don't consciously choose to hide. I think that's why I'm having this. Well, I know that's why I'm having this conversation, because most people don't choose to hide. You got it's learned, it's survival, right? Hiding often starts early. All right, a child learns to mute their emotions to keep what, the peace in the house, right? To keep from getting in trouble. Right? And keep from getting a whooping, right? So this hiding is a learned behavior, right? A teenager learns to overachieve, what, to feel seen, right? The only time mama recognizes me, the only time dad recognizes me is when I get A's and B's, or when I perform at sports, or in my performance mode. And so let me perform, right? If it's through my talent or my gift or my ability, I need to learn how I become an overachiever to feel seen. And then I take that same type of thinking into my adult life, right? And then guess what? As adults, we're still learning. And as adults, guess what we learn? We learn how to smile through our pain and appear strong. All right. We learn how to smile through our pain and appear strong. But here's the truth: what is hiding can't be healed. All right. All right. What is buried gets built into your identity and becomes a pattern of self-abandonment. And if you don't know anything else, I say it's some things that you need to know is my thing. We need to stop abandoning ourselves, right? If we stop abandoning ourselves, we may stop being in relationships where individuals abandon us. Okay. But we are first abandoning us, which is sending a message that it's okay to abandon you. It's okay to leave you. All right. And so we need to take the courage and go through that uncomfortable stuff that we need to go through to choose us, right? Which can feel like we're abandoning other people. And I think that's what makes it so difficult, right? Because when I start to choose me, and I'm thinking about this other person and how it's going to affect them and their feelings and all of that, right? Now it makes me not want to choose me because I feel like I'm being selfish and all of that. And I'm saying, yep, you got to go all through that, right? And know that the same God and the same creator that created you is created them, right? That y'all are getting sourced from the same energy, okay? And so you are not God. You are not their God, and you're not there to save them, all right? As adults, we have a responsibility to ourselves, all right? And a lot of us are in these codependent situations where we're, so community bound and so interlocked in these codependent relationships that we'll continue to self-abandon ourselves. And throughout this whole month, hopefully we'll get some language around that so we can start feeling the courage to choose us. All right. Listen, the psychology behind this is self-abandonment. the psychology behind this self-abandonment is the trauma response. Trauma response is like people pleasing, overachieving, self-silencing aren't personality traits, you guys. They're protective strategies. All right. I want everyone who's listening to me to know that you are a highly sophisticated individual. All right. So sophisticated that you have developed protective strategies. All right. To keep you from not feeling like you was. I'm gonna say this softly. I just don't want to feel like I'm crazy. You know, you hear a lot of people saying that, right? But the mind is creating what these protective strategies that's either keeping you in a current situation, right? Because it fears change and it sees change as a threat, all right? Or telling you, this inner critic is telling you some lies about you, all right? And so we have to really step out of autopilot and step into manual gear, right? That means that I am in charge of my life. Do the work that's required to live this amazing life. Okay. And then know that you have the energy to sustain that. Okay. You have the energy to sustain that. All right. So, another psychology behind this again is this a trauma response. And then shame thrives in silence. All right. So, when we hide parts of ourselves, it creates disconnect from ourself, from our purpose, and from our potential. And I want to say from our community. All right. So shame thrives in silence. So the more I am disconnected from my community, from myself, I'm going to say from myself, from my purpose, from my potential, and from my community, right? The more this shame will eat at me. All right. And guess what? The shame gets bigger when I start to listen to myself, when I start to go into my purpose. It appears to get louder, and I start to untap my potential and go into my community because now I'm talking about the stuff that led me into shame. So I got to feel that, right? But you need to know as an adult, you still safe, right? And it doesn't matter how people judge that, right? You need to know that that's the way through. All right. So it is going to sound like it gets a little louder, right? Because it's the very thing that silenced you. It's the reason why you stopped talking. It's the reason why you disconnected, right? It's the reason why you went and recluse yourself. All right. So as you start to come out of shame, know that now you got to hear that stuff, right? You gotta, when you go to talking about your purpose, there may be a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? And then when you go to untap your potential, it's gonna be some stuff under that, right? And then when you go back into community, it's gonna be a lot of questions. All right. But know that you can do this. All right. As you start to reconnect. Candace said manual gear. Absolutely. Yes, we got to get back into manual gear. All right. And get out of autopilot. Okay. So what we're really doing in our session today is really helping you to name the stories. Name the stories that you tell yourself often unconsciously, right? Recognize that these beliefs aren't true, right? They're agreements made in pain. All right. And really start to break these agreements and replace them with aligned truths. All right. All right. Some common stories that we're going to explore is if I'm not useful, I'm not lovable, right? I always mess up things. No one really sees me. And I have to be strong for everyone. And this last one is if I show emotions, I'll be rejected. All right. I'll be rejected. Miss Bernie said, ain't that the truth? All right. Listen, Iron Power, I want you to know that, here's a real life example. A woman that I work with, right, once told me she always had to be the strong one. All right. She learned early on to suppress her needs and emotions. And her story was, if I show weakness, okay, I'll be abandoned. But guess what? As we dug deeper, what she realized was being vulnerable didn't mean being unsafe. It meant being human, you guys. All right. So once she let herself cry, once she allowed herself to ask for help, once she allowed herself to speak her truth, she didn't break, you guys. She finally started to heal. And I think it's this fear that, like, if I feel this, right? If I cry, if I seek out help, right? If I start speaking my truth, that everything is going to fall, right? And I'm like, it will. Everything that don't belong will. right? And that's the healing process, because everything that don't belong, all the stuff that you carrying that shouldn't be here in this moment, that we should have let go, right? It's going to what? It's going to relieve itself. It's going to go. All right. All right, if that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. All right, so here's our pause. I want you to think about one story that you tell yourself to survive, even though it's hurting you now. All right. One story that you're telling yourself to survive, even though it's hurting you now. All right. And what would it look like to release that story today? I want you to think about that. All right. I want to go back to this thing of vulnerability, because I did hear one of my colleagues in this field of changing lives say that I think that this word vulnerability is being used, or I don't want to quote her, but basically in essence, she was like, being vulnerable is not just talking about the thing, it's doing the work. Okay. And a lot of people are saying that feeling like vulnerability is just talking about it. And I have to agree with her. All right. Because a lot of times we're talking just to hear ourselves talk, but we're not putting the work in. And true vulnerability is exposing, right? It's putting in the work, it's doing what's required, right? It's feeling that perceived, I don't say like perceived feeling of shame, but it's feeling that emotion, right? It's putting yourself in a situation where you have to feel the pressure, you feel the judgment, right? Because you're actually in action. All right. And that's the vulnerable space. And a lot of us have, you know, said we're vulnerable, we're in the rain, but you got umbrella, right? The umbrella is that you still covered, right? Because you're really not doing nothing. You're just talking about the pain that you went through, or you're talking about like the situation you're in, but you're not doing anything to change it. And so you're not really vulnerable, right? You're not really exposed to the rain. You haven't really stepped out and let the rain fall on you and you soaking wet, right? With emotions, with the judgments, with the things that's required, right, to get you where you need to go. All right. All right, so here's some powerful truths that we often overlook when we're talking about when we're speaking about unlocking our truth, all right, or uncovering what's really holding us back. All right, listen, the story was a strategy. So many people feel ashamed about the beliefs they hold. These beliefs like I'm not good enough, this silent belief that I have to earn love. And I don't think it comes up like I have to earn love. I think it's more performative, right? So what do I need to do to let them know I love them? So again, when this I have to earn love, I don't think that's the language that you're using, but you may use language like, what do I have to do? Right? It's a lot of do in your work. Like, what do I need to do to show you that I love you? What do they need to do to show me that they love me? It's a lot of activity around it, right? In this performance of proving that you love somebody or that you're loyal to them. All right. And these are beliefs that we hold, right? But these stories weren't random, you guys. They were protective strategies really created by the nervous system to make sense of what? Of your pain or your rejection. All right. So you didn't fail, you adapted. What that means is that when you felt like somebody was going to reject you, you went into performance mode, right? Like, what do I need to do to show them? So you may have overperformed so you wouldn't have to feel this rejection. Guess what? That's not failure. That's adapted. You adapted to the situation to either get them to stay or to avoid the pain. All right. And we do that long enough and we train the brain that, or this becomes a protective strategy that the brain goes into. How do we know that? Because typically change doesn't happen until something happens. How does this look? You're in a relationship, and as soon as you say, okay, I'm about to break up and I'm about to go, what does that person start to do? Right? They like, oh, we can talk, we can, right? They start to get very active language, right? What do I need to do? Or you may even physically see them do something like bring you flowers, or right. So they go into a performance because this is what the nervous system has really taught them. Hey, if you don't want to experience that pain or rejection, you need to do something. All right. You need to do something. And in that case, you have adapted. All right. So this story isn't about your identity. It's about the strategies that you have created to truly keep you safe. All right. And we have to unpack that. What strategies in my life have I created to keep me safe? All right. And that's so powerful to me that the brain is constantly doing that. Number two, I want you to know that you can be self aware and still stuck. This is a huge one. Okay. You can be self aware and still stuck. Listen, personal development without embodied integration, it becomes a trap, right? So many people know their limiting beliefs, but haven't gone deeper enough to feel them. All right. And challenge them through aligned action. Listen, knowledge alone doesn't heal, ownership and action does. All right. So we got a lot of people who got a lot of insight and can talk a lot of stuff and speak a language, right? But the activity, a lot of times is not behind it. Listen, insight is the door, but action is the key that unlocks it. All right. That unlocks you into another room. All right. And if you're not putting into action, and again, let me say this, that's I don't even want to say I don't like to say that's the work. I want to say that's living. I think that's why we feel like disconnected and this dis-ease because we're not actively participating in life, right? We're not doing the things, or we need to be doing the things and actively, participating, okay, in our life in a way, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether we feel exhausted at the end of the day or whatever, that activity does something to the brain. It releases chemicals. It's that movement, if that energy is moving in our body, right? So again, you can be self-aware, but you're still stuck because you're not actively moving. All right. Listen, belief systems create emotional ecosystems. Listen, your core beliefs create an inner emotional climate similar to your thermostat. All right. A belief like I'm not safe to rest really generates constant anxiety. And again, guess what? It's not coming up like I'm not safe to rest. It's like, I got too much to do to be resting. You know, rest is not for me. It's like this guiltiness when it's time to rest, right? And what we don't realize is from those type of core beliefs that there is an emotional climate that we're creating of anxiety, of dis-ease, and these other things. And we're wondering, why do I feel this all the time? And it's really because these beliefs that you carry, they are creating an emotional ecosystem. All right. And if you want to feel different in your life, then you have to go in and update those beliefs. All right. Another one is I have to do it all. Listen, if you have the type of thinking of I have to do it all, guess what type of emotional ecosystem you're creating? Resentment, right? Resentment, even if somebody come help you, and even though you're saying, listen, I'm gonna do this by myself, I'm a go-getter and all of this, a lot of us are building resentment because I have to do it all right, so changing the beliefs changes the emotional tone of your entire life. So a reframe that you can do is, listen, my peace is found in my aligned beliefs, not just my external change. And I think that's powerful when we can start really changing our beliefs, right? And when we change our beliefs, this is the peace that we're looking for. And a lot of this ease that we have right now is truly because our beliefs. It's the kind of thoughts that run through our minds all every day. Remember, you have something like 76,000 thoughts a day, right? And 20% of those or 30% of those like run over and over and over again. I forget the exact number, but I will tell you next week. Tomorrow. I will tell you tomorrow. But the thing about it is that you have these thoughts and they're running over and over again. These thoughts is creating an emotional environment or emotional climate. And you're wondering why, like, why do I feel tired? Why do I feel resentful? Well, it's the kind of thoughts that are playing on your playlist in the back of your mind. All right. A couple of more. The inner critic is often a misguided protector. All right. Listen, we know about this inner critic. We've talked about this inner critic for the last 4 seasons. All right. That voice in your head saying you failed or you're not ready is not trying to destroy you, you guys. It's trying to protect you from perceived danger. All right. But when you listen to it with compassion, you begin to lead that voice rather than be led by that voice, right? When you stop trying to like, oh, just so tired of hearing this, or, no, at some point you just got to go in manual drive, hear that voice and go anyway. All right. So I'll reframe for this is, what if my inner critic, or what if my critic was just a scared version of me asking me to lead them, to lead it, to be the leader? right? So what if this inner critic was the scared version of me asking me to lead it? Are you willing to lead it? All right. Are you willing to lead it? Listen, community mirrors are critical. All right. Community mirrors are critical. You cannot always see your blind spots, you guys. All right. You cannot always see your blind spots. So being in a healing centered, growth minded community like Project Life, in other communities that I know are happening, right, accelerates the process of exposing what these inherited stories and helping you rewrite them. Healing happens in safe mirrors, okay? The healing happens in relationship. This is why, you know, people go on sabbaticals from their life and just like, no, I'm gonna go by myself, I'm gonna go heal myself. And guess what? When you by yourself, it, of course, you feel healed, because guess what? Healing actually happens in mirrors. So it's in your interaction with the people around you that you're going to really know if you've grown or not, right? It's in the lifting of that conversation. It's in the saying the stuff as you feel it. It's in that facing, in this connection. It's in this connection that I'm going to really know how much work that I need to do. But if I'm never around situations or environments or that mirror that's mirroring back to me, then I can tell myself that I'm healed, and I can also make sophisticated stories to myself that I don't need friends and I don't need nobody and all of that, right? And still be very wounded underneath. Okay. All right. So community will create mirrors for you, and they're critical to your healing process. All right. So anybody tell you, I'm all for the whole isolating yourself, but nothing in nature is isolated. All right. The rain helps the grass, the grass helps the animals. All right. The animals then come back and they, like, it's the circle of life. All right. And when you choose to opt out that circle, that is screaming to you that, hey, something is wrong and I need to heal because I've separated myself from the pack. All right. When the situation has gotten so big that you have isolated yourself, that is not a good thing. All right. No matter what you tell yourself, it's not a good thing, because anything and everything has an ecosystem and is healthy in a healthy way. All right. Let me say it like this. Anything and everything that's healthy, all right, has a ecosystem, right? A support around it. All right. And you are worthy of that. Okay. You are worthy of having support for yourself. And then last but not least, your healing is your responsibility. But guess what? It's not your fault. I want you to take that in and breathe that one. All right. Your healing is your responsibility, but it's often not your fault. All right. You are not to blame for the beliefs that you inherited in this life. All right. The shame you've been given, you're not to be blamed for that, or the roles that you were forced to play at a very young age. All right. A lot of us were forced to grow up fast. A lot of us were forced into just roles, right, due to the lack of leadership, due to the lack of emotional intelligence, and just the lack of maturity, right, of the human race. I'm gonna say of the human race at the time of our gestation, or at the time of us being born. Okay. Right. So that's not your fault. All right. But you are responsible for healing. All right. You are responsible for healing and rewriting your story so you don't pass that burden on to who? To the next generation. So that is your responsibility. All right. So that you can heal it in you. All right. So here's a reframe. I didn't choose this lie. All right. I didn't choose this lie, but I can choose the truth now. All right. I didn't choose this lie, but I am choosing the truth now. All right, listen, we all inherited beliefs that feel safe, like don't speak up, you're too much, you need to earn love, right? You're doing too much. All right. These may have protected us, but now guess what? They're preventing us from growing. All right. That makes sense. Put a heart in the chat for me. All right. Listen, unhealed stories really fuel emotional exhaustion. All right. You can't build a powerful life while silencing battles of shame. All right. While silencing battles of shame. Telling yourself the truth isn't scary, you guys. It is sacred, right? It is a reason why the Bible say the truth will make you free. All right. It's how you reclaim your power from the lies you were taught, okay, that you were taught to live. All right. One of my members said, when I admitted that I didn't feel worthy, everything shifted. All right. I stopped trying to prove myself and I started affirming who I was. Listen, psychologists note that repressed shame and unprocessed trauma create chronic stress responses, you guys. All right. Naming the truth actually creates the neurological and emotional shifts towards healing. All right. We can name the truth. I'm going to tell you, y'all know my whole situation, right? If you're new to me, um, my situation, I found out who my dad was when I was 19. All right. And my dad happened to be a family member. All right. So this is a truth that a lot of my family feel like, take that to the grave. I speak about this so much because I am so grateful that at that time that my dad had the courage to come and say, hey, that's my daughter. Tell her that I'm her daughter, because the moment he stepped in my life at 19, what I didn't know is that next season of my life, I would absolutely 100% need my dad. Okay. So from those were my college years, those were these years of growth. It was just like a different climate. And I absolutely needed him. I'm a third shifter. He was a third shifter. We had really grew like this amazing relationship, right? And so I was so grateful that he had the courage to do that. Listen, but what he was able to reveal, he had to walk in that shame. He had to step in that shame, right? To come get who? Me. And so one of my things is like, I'm glad you came and got me, right? Because he could not have done that. All right. But he did it. And so many of us are not willing to step into the shame, right? To step into the thing that we need to do and just feel it for a moment. Because I'm sure that, I'm sure the story he told himself in his head, and we talked about this on the What Will My Daddy Say show. I'm sure that the story he told himself in his head about that moment was so much more bigger, right, than it actually was to come get me. I'm sure the cost, the reward of that cost outweighed it. Okay. All right. All right. So again, I'm saying that to say that naming the truth actually creates neurological and emotional shifts towards healing. And it did that for our relationship. Okay. All right. We were able to heal as a consequence of that. All right. Listen, you can't shift what you won't name, you guys. You can't shift what you won't name. Miss Bernice said it's definitely getting bigger before it heals. Yes, it definitely gets bigger before it heals. And we feel that. And here's the thing. So does it, let's take a pause. Does it get bigger or does it feel like it get bigger? Because it's the same information. Listen, I was his same daughter. Let's take my dad's situation. I was his same daughter for all the years, right? That situation didn't change. It just felt bigger probably to him because now he's been to actually like admit that I'm his daughter, but I was always his daughter, right? So sometimes things can appear to feel bigger, right? Or appear this way. And that's the power of perception. And I also think that's a gift, right? That's part of our gift, is that the way we perceive a thing is the way it is. And I also feel like that's why the Bible say that you can put something under your feet, right? Like that you have the power to trample a thing, trample it down, right? It's actually in the Bible in Genesis where it say, be fruitful and multiply, and then subdue the earth and trample, right? And trample, like you have this charge to trample over something. And the reason, good morning, Miss Castell, right? And the reason why we have this charge to trample is because when you go to be fruitful and multiply, right, and subdue, right, that there will be this feeling that comes over you, right? That it's like the destruction happens after intention, right? Right. So anytime you set an intention to do good, guess what you're going to experience first? Bad. And so this trample over means but you had a power to trample over that bad thing. You have the ability to rewrite that bad thing. You had the ability to see that bad thing so different because it's a part of life. Okay, but let me let me go. All right. So I want to say that we have to get the courage to name it. And we have lived in a culture where, guess what? We just keep secrets, and that's the thing to do, right? And so somewhere in our mind, we're silencing this pain and this shame. And it's like, no, let's talk about it. Let's get it out, right? And let's start moving forward. So we know that, again, I told you the new structure for this month or this over the summer is that on Mondays, Mindset Reset Mondays, we're going to talk about stories and triggers, right? Because they collectively go together. So this session is undercovers inherent beliefs, right? And emotional flashpoints that silently govern how we show up in life. All right. So these internal narratives are ready to be released. All right. These internal narratives, I want you to know, are ready to be released. And here's 10 things that you need to know. You live what you believe. All right. You live what you believe. Listen, your daily choices. Miss Castell said, amen. Amen. Like you have the ability to trample over it. Absolutely. Okay. So number one, you live what you believe. Listen, your daily choices, actions, and emotions are not just driven by logic, you guys. Yes, so true. Secrets, a culture of them. Listen, so Miss Castell say, yes, so true. Secrets. I know so many people who are silently suffering right now, right? And you may know people who silently suffering. You may be a person that's silently suffering, right? Because of these secrets. And it's as if, and again, I say this, it's as if you should know, right? It's we're not taking life and allowing it to reveal truth to us about us, because that's what truth is. Truth is revealed to you. All right. So in your goings, right, and in your doing, then you become aware. All right. So what we don't do is, like, when the truth come in to reveal itself, we hide it. We hide it. We'll go into shame, like, as if you should have known. But it's only through the join that the knowledge comes, right? And then the wisdom after the knowledge, how we become wise, is then we do what? We act on the knowledge. We don't hide it, right? But what we tend to do is we get the truth and we will hide it, right? And so we never become wise because we don't actively do what we need to do with the knowledge that we have right now. Some of this knowledge we have to hear 7, 8, 9 times, and some of these things we do have to experience 7, 8, 9 times, right? And that's where the compassion comes in, right? Because as you're, because the way your brain is wired is like, hey, that's unsafe. I know this is new knowledge, but listen, if you actually make this wise decision, everything gonna crumble, right? It just seems like everything gets bigger. And this is why we need a supportive community. I just go back to community, right? We need people that we can depend on and lean on to help us to take our knowledge and turn it into wisdom as we start to really activate and move. All right. So Miss Castell said, when I exposed my secrets, I got my deliverance and freedom. And so many people had that same story, Miss Castell. So thank you for sharing it, right? So many of us don't realize that it's in sharing those secrets, right? It's just in exposing it, even to ourselves. And again, however you want to expose that. Some people choose to expose it and, write a book about it, but some people just choose to just admit it to themselves. Listen, I'm unhappy. That's the truth, right? Just admit that, right? That I seek fulfillment, that I want something different, right? Maybe that is the freedom and deliverance, right? Just you admitting to you something that you have not yet allowed yourself to admit, so you can do the work that is required for you to make the adjustments and changes that need to be made. All right. If that makes sense, put an 8 in the chat for me. All right. So again, we want to hit go 10 things about the stories and triggers. And thank you again for sharing, everyone who shared. Okay. So listen, you live what you believe. All right. Listen. So your daily choices, actions, and emotions are not just driven by logic, you guys. You have to know that they're powered by your beliefs you hold about yourself, about others, and about the world. All right. So if you believe you're not worthy of love, success, and ease, guess what? You're subconsciously going to sabotage anything that contradicts this belief. This is why, you see people become millionaires, they get broke again, right? Because they don't believe that they can even sustain this $1,000,000, even though it's not something that they consciously say. It is an internal feeling of, of unworthiness. All right. And how do we know this? Because it's one, if we're honest, and one of the things that we need to be honest about is the type of conditions we come from, right? And if you come from a condition that in some way would you that you're running from, right? That have wounded you in some type of way, then just know that, hey, there is some healing that needs to be done, right? No matter how much no matter how good your bank account looks, or how beautiful you are, maybe you're in a relationship. Guess what? if you're just if you can just be honest about where you came from, then know that, guess what, that is some residue of that. All right. So again, if you believe that you're not worthy of love, success, and ease, you'll subconsciously self-sabotage. So maybe you could be a lot further along if you would just be honest, and we don't have to judge that. And if it's another thing that I want you to know, this is not about judgment. This is about revealing. All right. This is about blossoming. All right. Until these amazing individuals that we were created to be. All right. Number two, most limiting beliefs are inherited, not chosen. All right. And this is why we can be gentle with ourselves, because most limiting beliefs are inherited. All right. Miss Bernice said, I needed this. Oh, thank you, baby. All right. So most limiting beliefs are inherited, not chosen. So many of the stories you're holding right now, right? If it's you're not feeling enough, like you have to earn rest, you can't trust people, right? Guess what? Those were inherited. I heard an older guy say the other day to me, yeah, you got to be particular about who you let around your boys, because people will be jealous. And when I heard that, it was like, and this is one of those beliefs that generation of individuals, I'm not saying that this is not true. Listen, you guys, and I'm not saying that people are not jealous of people. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that that's one of those caught. Those are one of those caught stories. If you remember being younger, hanging out with your girlfriends or hanging out with your friends, and then your mom or your grandmother or your grandfather be like, now watch out, because people will be jealous, of you. And you ain't even thinking that. Like, you just a little kid, right? Having fun with your friends. And then they'll, impart their belief onto you. Now, did they do that to be malicious? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They didn't do it to be malicious. It was what they were taught, right? Because they had to survive what? Jealousy. They had to survive all of the stuff that they had to survive. So they said it to protect us, right? But guess what? Guess what you started to notice more? Jealous people, right? People who didn't want the best for you. And in a sense, it started to just carve out, like, it started to basically become a self-fulfilling prophecy. All right. All right. So again, many limited beliefs are inherited, right? They're not chosen. So many stories holding you back, like, I'm too much, I've have to earn rest, and I can't trust people, were shaped by your environments of trauma, listen, by peer pressure, and by cultural conditioning. So you didn't choose them. All right. So let's take this weight off of that, right? So you didn't choose the core of these core beliefs that you hold. You didn't choose them. Okay. They were given to you, but you can challenge and change them now. All right. And this is why, again, we can be forgiving and loving with ourselves, because we didn't even choose a lot of the beliefs that got us into the conditions that got us into this condition. All right. So we can be so forgiving with ourselves because we didn't do it, and we don't have to blame. All right. We don't have to blame anybody. That's the other part to it, right? So we don't have to blame, well, I wish my mom would have did better. I wish my daddy would. I wish my grandparents would have. No, because people do the best they know how to do with the information they have. And know right now you got kids that you passing some stuff down to, and you doing the best you know how to do with the information you have. All right. All right. Number 3, survival beliefs become identity scripts. So the belief that helped you survive, like people pleasing, overachieving, and silence, guess what? Often gets internalized with who you are. But survival strategies aren't meant to be lifelong identities, you guys. They're strategies. They're only meant to get you from point A to point B, but they are not meant to be there from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like you're going to use this same strategy and think you're going to get to Z. No, each journey of your life requires a different strategy. All right. So survival strategies are only going to take you so far, and they're not meant to be lifelong identities. They're signs of wounds and that now need healing. All right. So there are signs that of wounds that now need healing. All right. Listen, unsealed stories create emotional loops. So if you don't start rewriting your story, you'll keep reliving the cycle. Old stories produce what? Reoccurring triggers. And we know what triggers are. The trigger is the invitation, right? That because it's saying, hey, you're feeling some rejection, we need to heal this. Hey, you're starting to feel some abandonment, we need to heal this. Hey, you're starting to feel a little some unworthiness, this is a place you heal, right? So these old stories is actually triggering these invitations for you to what? Seek the help, because it's triggering the rejection, the abandonment, the unworthiness. And until the root belief is healed in you, guess what? That loop will continue even if your circumstances change. All right. All right. Listen, self-concept is a ceiling. I need you to know this. You can only grow as far as your self-concept allows. This is powerful. That means that you're only going to get as big as you think you can. You're only going to do as much as you think you can, right? And I know that this may be a struggle, right? Because you believe that you are not in control of your life. You believe that your current situation is because of somebody else. And I'm telling you that this is not true, right? Your current situation is a self-concept. What you're experiencing right now is what you believe you're going to experience at a very deep, 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 deep level. And it may not even be the you. It may be who your mother saw you as being. It may be who your daddy saw you as being. It may be who society said you would become. It may be who your grandparents thought you would be. It may be a rendition of an ex, their words that they spoke to you, and then you agreed with it. And so guess what? Now it's your self-concept. All right. All right. So but here's the thing. You cannot grow as far as your self-concept is allowed. So if you don't believe that you're capable, if you don't believe that you're safe or worthy of expansion, guess what? You'll unconsciously shrink and sabotage your progress. All right. So your stories actually become your ceilings. All right. They become your ceilings. They become your walls. Right. And so you can make this life as big as you want it or as small as you want it. All right. But again, it's the doing the work, it's the inner work, it's the living, it's the activity. All right. Naming the story is the first unlock. All right. So remember, we're talking about how to unlock what you've been hiding. All right. So the first thing is naming the story. So many people feel stuck, but don't know why. When you name the belief, I'm not enough unless I'm needed, you begin to separate who you are from what you've been told or modeled. Okay, so naming really breaks the spell. And so many of us feel like I'm not enough unless I'm needed, right? And so we go save people. All right. Number 7, you don't have to believe the lie anymore. All right. This is it. You don't have to believe the lie anymore. Once a belief is conscious, you guys, you have the power to renegotiate it. So if you know the end and stop it now is for what? Non-negotiables, because you can start to renegotiate your negotiables, what you're willing to negotiate. Listen, you are not the trauma, you are not the shame or the silence you were raised in. You are not too much. You are not behind. You are not broken. Okay. You are not what they said about you. All right. and you get to renegotiate that term in agreement with you. All right. All right. If that's what you want. All right. And I got to ask you, is that what you want? Now, when I say, is that what you want? I want you to hear what come up in you. Right. And then I want you to answer, yes, that is exactly what I want. Okay. So let's do something. All right. Number 8, belief change precedes behavior change. So so a lot of us are trying to change our behaviors, but we're not changing the belief. Um, Something very simple. So you guys heard me talk about my weight. I'm like in 195. Okay. And one of the things that I'm realizing is that this is the core belief that's activated in me, right? So because I work out 3 times a week, up to 3 times a week. Let me say that. I work out up to 3 times a week. I'm a modest eater, right? I'm pretty healthy. Right. So it's like, what are these inner beliefs, right, that may be activating as I'm maturing? All right. And so one of the things that I'm doing now is, like, before I go to sleep, when I go to sleep, I listen to like affirmations and things like that. That's all around body image, right? Like all around that type of stuff, right? So that I can start changing from the inside out, and not just going and changing my diet and changing, and working out more and things like that. It's like, no, I really want to align this belief, right? I mean, align these behaviors with some core beliefs. All right. And I know that we, as a family, right, we have a lot of ailments in our family that I feel like, thank you. Thank you, Bernice. I know that in our family, we have a lot of ailments that I feel like subconsciously I caught. I know that in our family, there's a lot of weight, right, that we carry as women that I feel like subconsciously is being activated. So I just want to shift that. Okay. All right. So again, um, your beliefs change. I mean, beliefs change precedes your behavior change. So you can't action your way out of misalignment. Listen, new habits won't stick unless they're rooted into new beliefs. So to truly unlock your potential, you guys, you must align action with identity. All right. Who you believe yourself to be. Who do you believe yourself to be? All right. All right. And then the last two is your truth was always there. It was just buried. All right. Your truth was always there, but it was just buried. Listen, under every false story is a deep truth. Your power, your voice, and your calling. So the healing is the process of removing what's not you. All right. So that you can return to what is you. All right. Again, I tell you, healing is the process of removing what's not you. And a part of that, what's not you, is the stuff you've been told about you, right? Before you was even here, somebody said something about you. While you was here, somebody dropped some seeds about you. And while you journey here, somebody said some stuff about you, right? So that's not yours. So let's remove that. And then a lot of the damage that was done to you had really nothing to do with you. People who have sick minds, they do sick things. All right. All right. So that had nothing to do with you. I know that this is challenging, right? Because we personalize that and we take that on as our identity, because we become the victim of that. But truly, those things that those people said or did physically or emotionally or mentally to you was their wounds, right? Being projected onto you, that they had nothing to do with you. A big part of it didn't. Okay. All right. All right. So you can't act. Okay. So your truth was always there. It's just been hidden. So the real you was never lost. It was just hidden, you guys. And then last but not least, you can rewrite your story starting now. All right. I do want you to know that if you can rewrite your story starting now. So no matter how long you've lived under the lie, you can choose a new narrative. All right. The pen is in your hand, right? The pen is your hand. I'm going to say that, right? And when you rewrite your story, right, you don't just unlock your potential, you unlock your peace, you unlock your power, and guess what? You unlock your purpose. All right. And that is what we're talking about all this month, about how to unlock your potential. And this week, we're talking about uncovering, right, what's been hidden. If that makes sense, put an 8 in the chat as we go into our biblical wisdom on this morning. Let me get through this. Your principal verse is Psalms 51:6. Listen, yet you desired for faithfulness even in the womb. You taught me wisdom in that secret place. Listen, what this means is that God honors our hidden truths. All right. The secret places we avoid are the places where transformation begins. All right. So this verse really reminds us that truth isn't something you earn, you guys. It's embedded in your design. You were born with divine connection to wisdom, to truth, and to inner guidance. So this secret place in your inner world, like your thoughts and your emotions and your beliefs, right? The secret place is your inner world, like your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs. And many people are taught to filter their emotions, avoid pain, and to perform for love. But God doesn't require perfection, you guys. He desires integrity. All right. And what is integrity? Just limiting your values, right? Being you because everybody else is taken. All right. So the first job is to know who you are, right? Right. And then be that because there's no one else like you. All right. And you're needed in this big world. You are still needed. All right. So that means be real, right? Not rehearse. Listen, faithfulness here isn't about external obedience. It's about internal alignment. And remember, that's the work, staying in alignment. You just don't get in alignment one time, right? Just like you just don't feed yourself one time. Just like you don't just drink water and feel like it's going to quench your thirst forever. Alignment is a what? It's going to be a lifelong process. Like it's a reset. It's like stuff that you're doing to stay in alignment. All right. And when you honor that truth, not what people expect from you, guess what? You start to live from your power. All right. All right. So you don't need to perform or prove to access this divine wisdom. You just need to pause and listen to the truth that's already inside of you. Right. That's what healing requires, this inner honesty. All right. All right. That makes sense. Put a heart in the chat. Our promise verse, which I think is very good, John 8:32. Then you will know the truth. And guess what? The truth will set you free. Listen, what this meaning, what once kept you hidden can now become the very thing that frees you. All right. Listen, this isn't just about spiritual truth. It's about your personal truth, you guys. The truth about who you really are beneath the shame, beneath the silence, and beneath these inherited stories. All right. The truth about the truth about what you feel, what you want, what hurt you, all right, and what left you behind, all right. I mean, what's been left unsaid, all right. Listen, the inner critic often keeps people trapped in false narratives. Again, like I'm not enough, I can't speak my truth, other people will hate me if I say that, right? I have to earn love, right? I have to keep quiet, stay small, right? I can't show any weaknesses. But once you name the lie, guess what? You reclaim your power. And guess what? What's true for you, right? When what naming the lie may look like for you may look very different to somebody else. All right. All right. So your truth and somebody else's truth is different. All right. And how you even get there. So the truth isn't just spiritual, you guys, it's practical. Telling yourself the truth is the first step in setting yourself free from toxic loops, from self-betrayal, and from small living. And when I had heard, I don't know if you guys watched this Latera's Dear Future Wifey, and it was this lady on there, and she said she was graced for her husband cheating on her. And it was like this whole big thing about like how toxic this was and how she was so how she was so being used by her husband. And that's not why I'm bringing it up, because I'm not here to judge that. What I'm here to say is that we're all graced for something, though. All right. I was just having a talk with the lady the other day, and I was just telling her she was graced for service. Okay. She was like, she's a very nurturing person. It's just things that she thinks about that I'm like, I wouldn't even thought about that. Right. Like you're graced for help. She's like truly graced for helping people. Right. And being patient, like with elderly people and like with people who are sick. Like she's graced for that. And for me, I wouldn't say that I was graced for that. Like I'm graced in a whole different way. And this is what I'm saying. Your truth is your truth. And we have we have inherited other people's grace. Like, in this case, if a woman could stay with a man who cheated on her, just say that, or something like that, maybe she truly was graced for that. I mean, don't come at me in the comments, but maybe she really was graced for that. Okay. Maybe there was something about her that him cheating her didn't bother her, the way it may bother you. Or an employee working at a certain business, right? Maybe they're graced for that level of rigor, right? So I know people who work in a plant, for example. I know I ain't graced to work in a plant. That is not a place that I feel like I even want to go to. I don't, it would probably make me very, very, very sad. All right. But I know people who get up, they go every day, and it's like a piece of like, listen, I want to know what I need to do. I'm gonna press this button, and it's like they're graced for that. Like they can do that. And so when we're talking about living in your truth, again, I'm just giving examples, right? When we're talking about living in your truth, we're really talking about what is your truth and what are you graced for, right? And what has God graced you for? Because that could be very different for different individuals. All right. What I want to tell you is that both these verses really reveal the healing isn't about fixing what's broken. Okay. It's about remembering what's true. All right. So when you talk about when we talk about the God that dwells in us, right, we're referring to this divine wisdom, right, and clarity that's already encoded in your being. All right. Your spirit knows, your soul knows, and your job now is to stop hiding behind these old stories and really start listening to the truth from within. All right. You were born with the ability to hear your truth. You were born with the ability to hear your truth, and you were designed to be free. All right. All right. So let's put that into practice. If that makes sense, put an A in the chat for me. Let's put this into practice. So what I want you to do is I want you to name the story. Okay. Number one, name the story. What's a belief you've been carrying that no longer fits? All right. Number two, I want you to find the source of that story. All right. So who taught you that? All right. Who taught you that? What experience reinforced that? And then number three, I want you to write the truth. All right. So I want you, what empowered truth can you choose to live from now? All right. So what belief are you carrying that no longer fits? Who taught you that belief? And then how can you rewrite that belief? All right. If you need a journal prompt for this morning, listen, what truth do I need to tell myself today, even if it feels uncomfortable? All right. And then our affirmation for today, I'm going to put it on the screen for you. Our affirmation for today is I am worthy of truth, freedom, and love. I choose to live in my truth and not my trauma, you guys. All right. I choose to live for my truth and not my trauma. And then today, I choose radical honesty with myself. All right. So that's the intention. I choose radical honesty with myself. Sometimes just being radically honest is the way to go, you know. I remember I watched this interview that I did maybe like 5-6 years ago, and one of the things that he had asked me, the interviewer said, like, what was it for you? And I had to be radically honest with him and say I was lost. Like I just didn't know what I was doing, where I was going in my life, and I just finally had to say I have no idea what I'm doing, right? And this intellectual me that was trying to figure out and do everything, I had to like sit that part of me down, and I was just like, listen, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am so lost. And then I told him, and as soon as I did that, it was like I was found, right? It was like in that moment of me surrendering that truth, like I'm so lost, God. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm trying, I don't know what a mother is. Like I'm trying to figure out what it is to be a mother. Like I don't really know what it is to be in a relationship. Like I'm cohabitating with this man, and like I got finances, but I don't really know how to manage these finances. Like I know we in these six figures, but I have no money management skills at all. And I'm trying to learn this stuff. But what I'm knowing now is that there was core beliefs in me that even it didn't even align with the behaviors that I wanted to embody at that time in my life, which is why only certain things could be sustained for me. I can live it out, only short lived, in spurts, right? And then it'll all come back, right? All come back to my default. And so I had to, just make this radical honesty with myself. So the intention today is I choose radical honesty. And then if you want this bonus challenge, every time your inner critic speaks to you today, pause and ask, is this my truth or is this my trauma? And you've heard me say, is this my wise person or is this my wisdom or is this my wound, right? Is this my wisdom speaking or is this my wound, right? And in this one though, is this my truth or is this my trauma? All right. Whenever you hear that inner critic talking, and you all know that I'm gonna have this call, challenge, and charge for you. So my call, I'm calling, I'm asking, what truth are you walking away with today? I'm gonna challenge you on today. What brave truth will you tell yourself this week, right? As we go and unlock our potential, right? And understand what's truly holding us back. And a simple charge on this morning, listen, go shape your life. Okay, go shape your life. If this session resonated with you and you're walking away with some insight on this Mindset Reset Monday, right? Listen, drop a fire in the chat and let's celebrate our growth together. All right. Remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I am so excited to come back tomorrow for Transformational Tuesday. We're talking about the cost of silence and stagnation, you guys. The cost of silence and stagnation. We'll explore how staying silent is costing you more than you think. It's costing you more than you think. I want you to know that I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. All right. Till later.